This is a special guest, Ralph, tonight, and I would like to let Richard Collins, the director of the Dual Diploma here in Italy, introduce him, and our moderator for tonight, Mev Asti.
Okay, welcome everybody to Edutainment. My name is Richard Collins. I'm the director of Doppio Diploma in Italy. And I find myself in a rare situation tonight because normally Ralph is doing what I'm doing now. So I'm going to keep it short because I'm going to pale by comparison. Before I introduce Ralph, I also would like to say a few words about Mev, Maria Enrica Vittoria. Mev organized this. I've heard a few stories about how this got started. I know that Mev attends all of Ralph's edutainment sessions religiously, and Mev attends the Liceo Sello di Udine. She's in her second year of the Programma Doppio Diploma, and just a quick word, her grade point average is above 90, so she is doing. I'm sorry to do that to you, Mev, but I think people should know that you're not only in the program, but that you're excelling at the program. And I thank you very much for taking the initiative to invite Ralph. I'm only envious, jealous, partially upset that I didn't think about it first. I should have thought about having Ralph do one of these, quite honestly. But congratulations goes to you because it's a great initiative. And now I'd like to move on to introduce Ralph. Ralph and I met a year ago. We had touched bases a few times, but we physically met a year ago in New York when all the high schools under Academica meet for a big conference in New York. Immediately, I think we got along quite well. He let me know about some of the projects he was doing. And within months, Ralph has become the ambassador from the United States. And I'm not using that word in any exaggerated form. Ralph is literally an ambassador from the United States to Italy for our students. And he organizes many of these. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, copy Mev's behavior. You see something you like, join it. Ralph brings on very interesting people from many fields, musicians, actors, scientists, journalists, DJs, all sorts of important personnel that many people in Italy know as well. I do want to share one comment about Ralph that has amazed me, because Ralph obviously talks to very important people who sometimes don't have the time to do these kinds of things. And he manages to bring on people that are very busy to speak to us, to talk to us about your studies in Italy and the United States and what they specialize in. And there's a term that I was trying to think of a word today to describe Ralph. And I thought about a book, an Italian book by Castiglione, which I'd read many years ago. And I'm using an Italian text so the Italian students can create that bridge with me. Castiglione talked about a quality called sprezzatura in Italian. And I imagine some of you that have studied them can remember that term. And sprezzatura is difficult to translate into English. But essentially, the sprezzatura is a term which Castiglione shares with us. And in defining it, he says, it's what is most difficult for people to do, but making it seem like it's something simple to do. And when I think of Ralph, and I think of Castiglione sprezzatura, that's the combination. Ralph does very difficult things, very challenging things, but he does it with an ease and with a character and a personality that makes it seem like he would do it even if he wasn't paid for this, or even if it wasn't his job. Simply the kind of guy who's fortunate to say, I do what I like to do for a living. And I invite all the students to learn from Ralph and try to copy that role model in their own behavior. Having said that, I know I've extended my introduction. I now leave you with Ralph Krauss. Mev, thank you very much for your continued efforts. And here's Ralph. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for that incredible introduction. Sprezzatura. Did I say that right? Sprezzatura? Okay. So Mev, you can unmute if you want, because I know that you had questions. You guys got to understand this is the first time I've been on this end of it, and I've done over 1,000 of these, and so it's exciting, and I'm also nervous at the same time. So thank you for taking the time to come here. I really appreciate it, and Mev, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you to you, Ralph. So First of all, I would like to say thank you to every one of you and to you, Ralph. I have some questions for you to talk about a little bit of your backgrounds. First of all, why did you choose this job? What part of your work you like most?
Okay, so why I chose to do what I do? Well, this job hasn't really been around. It was kind of a job that I more or less accidentally created. And so I was a classroom teacher for a number of years, but how I really got started in education was I was a student, but I wasn't the best student. I was what was called a special education student growing up. And that meant that I wasn't the best at learning. I was very difficult to motivate. And, you know, the teachers had difficulty trying to get me to turn in my work and you know, stay inspired in school. And I had a very close friend growing up. His name was Bobby. And we were best friends from first grade all the way through to our college years. And unfortunately, he recently passed away, but he always taught me that don't let others define you. And what I mean by that was when I was labeled as special education, when you have that label on you, your odds of graduating high school become significantly diminished. And then your odds of going to college are significantly diminished. So through that, I was still able to graduate high school and I was still able to go to college and I became a teacher. And when I was a teacher, I found that I was motivating some of the students, but I wasn't able to motivate all of the students. And so what I would do is I would find out what do my students, this was elementary school age, what did my students want to do with their lives? And they would tell me, okay, I want to be a basketball player, or I want to be a DJ, or I want to be an actor, or, you know, an engineer, whatever it may be. And I live in a place called Las Vegas, Nevada, which has about 2.2 million people. So I figured, hey, you know, I can connect some of these 2.2 million people to help inspire some of my students. And I thought that's when I was growing up, with my best friend, Bobby, when we were those kids in the class who weren't getting the best grades, who were difficult to motivate, that was the kind of stuff that would have helped us when we were younger. And so I started bringing in people, and some of the guest speakers started to get bigger and more influential. And it started with just, you know, local DJs or college athletes. And then by the end of me physically bringing in people, even the governor for the state of Nevada physically came into my classroom. And then you start becoming friends with some of these guest speakers. Like some of them, you guys met Rudy Rudiger last year. He would physically come in. Well, when I started having requests from other teachers or colleagues where they said, hey, can you bring in guest speakers that, you know, say, for instance, were a witness to President Kennedy being assassinated? So my very first edutainment was with a gentleman named Clint Hill, who was a Secret Service member for Mrs. Kennedy. And he is on the back of the Cadillac when President Kennedy is getting assassinated in Dallas. So that was the very first edutainment where he's telling the sights and the sounds and the smells in Dealey Plaza in the 1960s, where none of this stuff was in the textbook, and you could hear a pin drop. And that's when I knew that this was something that we could create. And I've taken it as far as I can, and I'm gonna keep trying to take it any further. So I'm sorry that was such a long-winded answer, Mev, but you know, this is kind of like how this career got created. There was nothing, you know, my original title was called Digital Coach. There was no such thing before, and now my title is Digital Innovations. There's nothing really like it in schools. But in life, you're gonna find that, and a lot of our guest speakers say it, they say, follow your passions. You'll have a feeling in your heart where you know this is right, and everyone in the world could tell you, no, this isn't gonna work, and no, this is not impactful, and it's not meaningful for anybody. But you know in your heart that if it's meaningful to one student, then it's completely worth it. And you, Mev, are pretty much the embodiment of that, because you've let me know a few times that it means something to you. So that alone makes it worth it to me.
Thank you so much, Ralph. Really, you answered in a really great way. My second question for you is, what helped you to start your career, or how do you start it, really starting like you do now?
Sure. And this goes back again to my best friend growing up, where other people would say, you know, that's dumb. Just be a regular teacher. Don't think outside the box. Do what everyone else is doing. Teach what's in the book. You know, don't think outside the box. Don't pull in all of these guest speakers. Don't try and inspire. Just stick directly to the book. And, you know, a big thing for me is that, you know, if you don't take chances in life, like, that's safe chances, but if you don't take chances, like in your career and in your life, you're not going to have much of a reward with your career. And that's helped me quite a bit in what I do. There's a lot where you guys send me requests for guest speakers, and then I'll go for a walk or I'll go for a run, and I'll kind of think, geez, who can I get? And then the next question is kind of like, how do I get them? How do I get a hold of that person? And, you know, it's almost like a puzzle. And to think, how can I connect the student with that person and create some sort of educational experience for you guys, to where you kind of think, well, maybe I want to do that with my life. Maybe I want to be a geologist or a paleontologist, and you never really thought about that. That inspires me more than anything, is kind of getting you guys to think, not you guys just as students, but also your teachers, to think outside the box of redefining the word is. So what is education? And, you know, education doesn't just have to be from a book. It can be someone telling a story or sharing their story to educate you about a certain experience they may have, or a certain area of expertise they might have. There's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, but they said, students might forget what you taught them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think a lot of these edutainments push what's called emotional intelligence, to where, you know, you have a Holocaust survivor and you guys speak to that individual, and you have that emotion and that feeling because you're speaking to another human being. And that way, whenever someone brings up the Holocaust, from now until your last day on earth, you're going to have that, you're going to remember that original emotion when you spoke to a survivor. And yeah, sorry these answers are so long-winded, but I'm just excited to be able to connect with you guys.
Okay. Then I would like to know, what was your first Zoom?
Yeah,
Introduced you
it
first?
was Clint Hill, and that one, I'm sure Richard's heard of him, but that one was one that kind of stuck with me. He was there, literally, he was less than, I think, 4 feet away from saving President Kennedy's life, and he missed it. And President Kennedy died, and the bullet went right over his right shoulder. And essentially, you know, he talked about how he went on to protect the next 4 presidents, but that the assassination of President Kennedy lived with him and almost haunted him for decades. But that wasn't the lesson. The lesson was persevering through adversity, was not blaming himself, and that sometimes in life things are going to happen whether you intervene or not. And it kind of took on a life of its own, where beyond a history lesson. And now whenever I hear about the President Kennedy assassination, I think of Clint, and I think of the human emotion behind that. So that was the very first one. And since then, we've had a lot of very emotionally powerful events created from these edutainments.
Thank you. What a wonderful first way to start.
Oh, Richard has a question. I'm not sure, because he has to go in a minute. So hold on. Richard, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, make sure I have permission. No, you mentioned, Ralph, before that you've taken this thing as far as you think it can go. And I think you're scaring us. We want you to keep doing this. We want you we want to see more from Ralph. What can you promise us tonight?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that we're going to have more countries. We'll have a lot of guest speakers in the future. One of the things, I mean, I guess you could call it a slogan. I say there's 7.5 billion people on Earth, and there's a whole lot of lessons to be taught. And we can just go for the rest of my career. I hopefully will do this till the day I die, and there'll be no such thing as retiring, because like what Richard said is that this is truly my passion, and I love doing it. I love just when even one of you lets me know that it means something to you. I could spend 1,000,000 hours producing it. And I have spent a lot of hours with some of the bigger names where we have to schedule and then they cancel and then we reschedule, and some of them where it takes up to 2 years to get them on calendar. But it's worth it when one kid comes back to me and says, you know what, that meant a lot to me, and I'll never forget that. And so when I say as far as, I think I meant like physically as far, because you guys are half the globe. Maybe we'll look at Southeast Asia, and I know we've had some in Australia and stuff like that, but we're also hopefully bouncing ideas back and forth with NASA regarding the International Space Station. So hopefully we'll be able to take it out of this world eventually for you guys. And believe me, you'll be the first ones to know. You'll be the first ones to know. I was actually on a call with somebody in the Arctic Circle right before this. So we're looking at the North Pole as well as Antarctica, which might be done over a satellite phone from McMurdo Base in Antarctica. But you guys will be the first ones to know, because I know that you guys absolutely love it, and I love including you guys.
Well, I'm just going to ask you for rhetorical sake, who are your favorite students around the world?
Oh, I would say, gosh, I'm American, tried and true, but here, Patton, come here. This is my son. So you guys get to meet my son. I'm going to say he's my favorite American student, but as far as like all the edutainment kids, it would be you guys. This is Patton. Patton, say hi.
Hi.
Okay, go back, read a book. But he's named after General Patton. But anyways, I would say,
great.
I would say you guys, and the reason is not because I'm just trying to kiss up to you guys, but the reason is because you guys come with some next level, collegiate level questions, and they're very cerebral, where it's, I've had college professors connect with you guys from like Ohio State, and they're like, I thought these kids were graduate level students, after talking to them. And I talked to Mev that now, in case you guys notice how my process is you have to send me the questions first before I allow you to answer it. It's not because of anything you've done, but there are other kids around the world that like to, mess around or ask inappropriate questions or even offensive questions, because they don't click. It doesn't connect that they're talking to another human being. And I think you guys are very cognizant that you're talking to people. And I'm very appreciative of that. I hope one day to be able to come over there and present for you guys in person and meet you in person. But I feel a sense of connection with you guys. And, I feel very blessed to be able to help educate and inspire you guys.
Well, I'm going to say one more comment down that the students move on. Ralph, that I've already started on whether it'll be possible for next year's graduation or graduation 2022. I'm working on having you be our guest speaker here. So that's the plan. So I know Mev's probably not graduating until 2022. Is that correct, Mev?
No, next year.
Oh, you're graduating 20.
In
Okay.
21.
Well, we're hoping to bring Ralph over to be the guest speaker for the graduation. We'll see. We'll see
that would be
what
a pinnacle
travel permits.
moment. That would be a pinnacle moment, especially for someone who's told he'll never graduate high school. And
to be the guest speaker
in a foreign country, it'll be like, who's laughing now? So
exactly.
but I would be absolutely honored for such a distinguishment.
Thank you. Then we have a question from one of our participants, Carol. I think.
Is it Kamalpreet?
Sorry?
Kamalpreet, I think she messaged a question.
Yes.
So if you want to unmute her, I'm trying to get Mev, because one day you said how you might want to do this when you grow up. So this is on the job training. You got this.
Okay. So, where is?
You can hover over her gallery view and just unmute. Here, I got you. I got your back.
Hi.
Hi, Kamalpreet.
So I'm very glad to talk with you once again. And my question was, you did a lot of webinars. So which is the best for you?
Okay, that is awesome. Do you mind if I share some footage with you guys of because I prepared some of the best ones and more memorable ones for me that I don't normally share with the public, but you guys are so special that I prepared this for you guys. Are you guys okay with that? All right, fantastic. So I'm going to go here, and I normally present on this. Can you guys see? It looks like a hand. Can you see that? All right, cool. So I normally present this at conferences, and it's much longer, but I condensed it quite a bit for you guys, just real short ones. So it's edutainment learning, connecting students, that's you guys, to the world. And this is to educate, inspire, and entertain all of you guys. So there's, like I said, there's 7.5 billion people on Earth, and I think everybody has a lesson to teach. This is inspiring through education and entertaining through education too. So I'm going to give you guys some examples. When we were talking about that emotional intelligence or that feeling from certain content. So this is called Living a Life That Matters. This is my really, really good friend. And a lot of times I get friendships with these people, and we care about each other, and we call each other on each other's birthdays. This is my friend Ben. He survived a place called Auschwitz, Buchenwald, and he's the final living survivor of the Dachau death train. There's no other living person in the world. And he's also an author and a motivational speaker. So here's a quick clip of him speaking to students in Germany. Now, these students in Germany had never learned about the Holocaust. This is the first time they had heard about it from a Holocaust survivor. Now we're good.
And my sister Lola marries Michael. And they had the wedding, and this is the wedding parties that was in the yard. This was not allowed. The Nazis did not allow us to gather more than 3 people in one place. Either it's a family, but if it's not a family, more than 3 people couldn't be together. Now, the strange thing is, out of all the people that you see, only 3 of us survived. Michael, Lola, and I. Everyone else was slaughtered. Nobody survived the war. While individuals can't always choose what happens to them, whether it's a crisis or a calamity, people can choose to either let it ruin their lives or to learn from it and move forward. It's essential to understand the consequences of personal choices. It's possible to let tragedy or trauma become a reason to stop living. But it's also possible to live through extreme circumstances and commit to a life that has meaning, a life that matters. I want you to remember that.
Now, he's spoken to our students quite a bit. He actually lives here in Las Vegas, and he loves telling about his story because that's how he keeps his family members alive, is sharing his story. We had students just like you guys ask me, do you know of anyone who's younger who went through what Ben went through? And I was able to connect to this man. His name is Shin Dong-hyuk, and he is a North Korean-born human rights activist who is reputed to be the only known prisoner to have successfully escaped from a total control zone grade internment camp in North Korea. So he was actually born in a concentration camp, and he escaped, and is one of the only human beings to ever escaped and share his story. So I was able to connect him to students who learned about Ben's story, and the students were comparing and contrasting. And here he is sharing just a little bit about his story through his wife who is translating.
수용자 철저망 넘어갈 때에 성공할 수 있는 가능성보다 오래 실패할 수 있는 가능성이 더 많아요.
Obviously, there was a higher probability of dying before getting across that electric fence successfully.
내가 그 고안에서 24년 동안 살면서 공개청 당하는 사람들 봤을 때 그 잘못했던 게 이제 탈출을 해서 이제 잡혀본 사람들 공개청 하는 것도 봤었거든요.
And all my life, my 24 years, I had seen and witnessed countless executions in front of me from the moment I was a little tiny boy. And, you know, I know very well that a lot of those executions were due to individuals who either attempted, talked about, thought about, or tried escaping.
What is unique about this was that his story was eerily similar to Ben's story from 7 decades earlier. So from there, I decided that, you know how I said that sometimes you have this on your heart, tugging at your heart, that this is the right thing to do? I introduced Ben to Shin, and they got to meet each other and share each other's stories for over 3 hours. Now, what's amazing about this story is that night I got a call from Shin's wife that he wanted to come to Las Vegas to meet me, and he wanted to meet Ben in person. As you can imagine, that was a very awkward conversation with my wife coming home to say, hey, we have visitors that are coming to visit us, and they're going to stay at our house in Las Vegas. She says, oh, who is it? Where are they from? I said, he's from North Korea, but he's totally cool. And so they do live in the United States, and they came with their baby son. And what I knew was connecting a North Korean concentration camp survivor and a Holocaust camp survivor had never been done. So we brought a film crew in to film it for all of the students so they could see that Ben and Shin were connected through the students. Now, Shin, in this footage, he kind of has some survivor's guilt because he's one of the only family members who survived. And Ben is giving him advice.
잡혀 들어가는 전혀 이유는 몰라요. 알려고 하지도 않고.
I still don't know why my parents were put in the prison camps. I never tried to find out why.
그리고 내가 수용소에서 어느 순간 태어났는데 또 내가 왜 태어났고 왜 수용소 살아야 되는지도 전혀 관심이 없었었고.
But all I know is that somehow I was born there, and I didn't know why I was born there, but I didn't try to find out why either.
그 간사한테 신고를 하면서 이제 결국은 공개청으로 죽게 되는 이런 말도 안 되는 그런 상황까지 벌어지게 만드는 게 된 거고요.
But me trying to be the best prisoner, the most obedient prisoner, resulted in the execution of my mother and my brother because of actions of myself. I considered myself to being a good prisoner, but it resulted in the execution of my mother and my brother.
내가 언제 내 차례는 언제 죽는 차례가 오겠지 하고 그렇게 기다리게 됐나요? 아니면
When I lived in the camps, I knew that eventually it would be my turn to die. So my question to you is, when did you have the idea? Did you always have hope to get out, or was it just one day you realized it might be my turn to die next, and I have to just hold on to the fact that maybe I'll survive?
I always had hope that I will survive.
늘 희망을 가지고 계셨어요.
And I never, for some reason or another, and don't ask me why, I had this feeling that someday I will survive.
뭔가 느낌이 있으셨대요.
But when I did survive, I only weighed 65 pounds at the age of 16 and a half. And I was in very bad shape. And right after I was liberated, I passed out. And I was out in coma for about 2 months. So, till I came back to myself. But somehow I always felt I will live through it. So you have your whole life ahead of you. And you have to be thankful. There must be a reason why you survived. And the reason is to tell the world. And the reason is to be successful so that you can use your money to help educate the world and let them know what evil is. What evil is.
That's so cool because I never set out to connect a Holocaust survivor and a North Korean death camp survivor. But you never know where these lessons will take you. And they're not always sad. There's also a lot of fun ones too. Here, and this is the last video, I promise. But this is making the impossible possible. And this was one of the first video conference events I did that I actually recorded. Here we have international recording artist Los 5. They were performing music at one campus, and we sent it out live stream to multiple campuses, and the students everywhere were recording it, and they edited their own concert. And again, people were telling me you can't do it, it's not possible, and we have a short little commercial about it here.
I think you guys are ready, so without further ado, give it up for Los 5! What's going on? It's AD with 98.5 KLUC. Today we're out here at Pinecrest Academy, the St. Rose campus, and Los 5 is performing. We're going to stream it to all the campuses. It's going to be a dope little video through WeVideo, and it's going to be a good time. So let's go check it out.
So we're filming the Los 5 and we're streaming it to other schools, like the other Pinecrest schools. We are using Chromebooks, and then for the HDs we got cameras and then camcorders. We're gonna use this like the other schools, Pinecrest schools, they're gonna be filming as well. Okay. And they're gonna share it with us, and we're gonna put like them together and like mix it up.
Well, I wanted to bring digital learning on more of an entertainment kind of forum, and I thought what better way than a simultaneous concert, recorded it and edited all by our students here at Pinecrest Academy in Nevada.
So the grant came about last year in February. They asked us to apply, anyone who wanted to, and so Pinecrest, since we're all about technology and collaboration and STEM, we wanted to apply for that to get technology for our middle school students. These kids are amazing, what they can do with technology. They're just so creative and innovative. It's going to be fun to see.
What's going on, guys? We are Los 5, and we're here at Pinecrest Academy with 98.5 KLUC. It's a blessing for having another day alive. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us. Go Panthers!
Los 5.
Peace!
All right. And with that, that is, so Kamalpreet, that's a long answer, but those are some of the more memorable ones, both happy and a little more emotional. But I hope to one day be able to, you know, where we can create music and create content with all of our campuses and all of our students. And I think that would be, you know, very possible, especially with the technology that's available at our fingertips, and it's all about innovating. So I'm very excited about that. So Mev, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Ralph. Nice video, really. And one, okay. Another question for you is where, how, and thanks to whom you find those wonderful people to interview?
Well, have you guys ever heard of 6 degrees of separation? It's this theory that we're all connected. All 7.5 billion of us around the world are connected by 6 people. And like I tell teachers that I present this to, if you could speak to anyone, if you could have your students speak to anyone living, who would it be and how would you tie it to instruction? And so I figure, like, say if it was a Brad Pitt or something like that, I'm not going to try and reach out for Brad Pitt. I'm going to find one of his degrees of separation and contact them to see if they could ask him. And you'd be surprised, like how effective that can be. But, you know, reaching out to managers, I know some of you guys request musicians or bands, reaching out to managers, reaching out to publicists, And, I'm straightforward with them where I say, I'm a licensed teacher in the state of Nevada. I work with students around the world, and I'm just connecting them with primary sources or expert sources of information. Can you spare 5 minutes to change a kid's life? And sometimes they'll ignore me. Sometimes they'll say, no, we don't have time, but there's always that 1 out of 100 that'll say yes. So you better believe I'm trying for you guys to make stuff come to life.
Okay. Yeah, I know it, the 16, okay, but I didn't know that you used it.
Oh, 6 degrees of separation. It's very real. Think of it like, so Mav, I know that you're kind of interested in journalism or digital innovations, what I do. If you're trying to get a hold of someone who's like an influencer or an innovator who might normally be difficult to get a hold of, they usually employ somebody that will kind of take all of these requests and figure out which ones are the most the most interesting. And then if they want that, they'll turn and ask that individual. So usually that's how it works.
Now I would like to know, with the COVID thing that happened to every one of us, your work more than ever is becoming part of our daily routine. What have you done to improve it in the recent months?
Absolutely. I think I'm sure you guys noticed this. Who here, thumbs up, like who here does video gaming or like Twitch or streaming or anything like that? I know there's a few of you. So what I do is along the lines of that, like with OBS, and there's all this technology and all this innovation that's being created almost every single day. I think the most important thing is to keep it simple. At the core of what we do right now is we are thousands of miles away from each other, having never ever met each other physically. However, we know each other and we're exchanging ideas and exchanging content. So I don't want to push the envelope too much with streaming or editing, graphics. I do a lot like post-production stuff, but I think keeping to the main idea of this, which is we have someone who's trying to share a lesson or share a story with you guys receive it, and then you guys reply with a question. And there's a live, organic two-way conversation. And that's the most important thing to me, is to keep it simple for everybody and not complicate it too much, which can be actually a pretty hard thing, especially with in the COVID world we live in, because they're constantly, they're coming out with virtual reality, hologram, artificial intelligence even. And I'm just trying to keep this easy to use, not just for our guests, but also for our students, and easy for you guys to request guests too, whenever you want that.
Thank you, Ralph. Now I'm going to unmute Alice, because she has a really, okay.
So first of all, thank you for being here. And my question is, are there any people that you've collaborated with that you've kept in good contact with?
Absolutely. Some of my closest friends, Ben, who you met or who you just saw, he's like a surrogate grandfather to me. And I call him almost weekly. And there's plenty of guests where I will, if I need any advice, professional advice from them, where they are, some of the leaders in the business world and very influential people. And I use those resources that I give you guys. I also use those resources for myself personally and professionally. And they'll come to me and say, hey, can you host an edutainment for my students at Ohio State? Because they'll need some professional help. And I'll say, yeah, absolutely, free of charge. I just want to help out. I know you guys saw that. Who here was on the SeaWorld one last year? We had SeaWorld with the whales. Any of you guys? So remember that. How that started was they reached out to me and they said, our whales, believe it or not, the whales, they get sad when they're not around people. And you don't think that because they're animals, but they are very highly and emotionally intelligent animals. They weren't seeing people for like months and they were getting sad. And so one of their head zoologists or head trainers reached out to me and he said, can you think of a way that we can connect students to where the whales will see the students and the students can see the whales? And I said, well, do you guys have a Jumbotron, which is like a gigantic TV screen in their amphitheater? And he said, yes. And so when you guys were on there, you guys were actually on the Jumbotron on a gallery view to where all the whales could see you. And they said it made their world, where we had rehearsals leading up to it. We had every technical thing go wrong you could imagine, but we had so many rehearsals to make sure it went as well as it could. And, you know, I still keep in contact with a lot of those people to this day. And thankfully now people can go visit SeaWorld and visit the whales in person now. But it was really cool because you don't really think of that being a thing, you know? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Now my last question for you is, when something wrong happened during a meeting, like the host doesn't present or might have internet problems, how do you feel and what do you do to solve them?
Again, I'm big on quotes. There's a pretty well-known quote. It's called Murphy's Law. What can go wrong is gonna go wrong. And so you can prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And as we know, internet is not always reliable. So with Zoom, you know, when you're hosting these, always have a co-host, because that way if you get kicked off, your co-host now becomes host, not some random person you don't know. So if you have 1,000 people on there, like take for instance the SeaWorld one, we had almost 1,000 people on there. I didn't know all 1,000 of those people, and they were from all over the world, but I had a co-host just in case I was kicked off. You guys took, say for instance, when I was sharing my screen, things go wrong, you know, but we're all people, we all make mistakes, but we all understand that. And, you know, and I'll tie this back to why I love working with you guys, is you guys are very understanding and patient. And that's, you know, when we have a guest speaker who has a death in the family, or they're not feeling well, or they need to reschedule or cancel, I never get any complaints from you guys. You guys completely understand, which is why I absolutely love working with you guys. So in short, to answer your question, just roll with the punches, you know, do your best. That's all. That's all we can ask.
Thank you, Ralph. And my really last question for you, it's when you think I sure that you will have a lot of other meetings in your career, but your last one meeting, what would you like to, what guest would you like to have on your last meeting?
My very last meeting of my career?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is, I did not expect this one.
Guys.
I guess my son, I don't know. You can, yeah. Or one of you guys. I don't know. That's a really hard question. That's a very hard question. I'll have to say one of my friends from dual diploma in Italy. Let's go with that. I feel like that's a safe answer. So there we go.
Thanks, Ralph.
You guys are wonderful, and thank you for the awesome questions. And Kay, thank you for the opportunity. And Mev, awesome job producing this. And if you guys have any requests, feel free to reach out, or feel free to reach out to Kay. I'll go ahead and I will share with you guys some of the content from today. Like, here's some of the bigger guests that we've had, and if you want to just check it out, feel free. And, you know, don't hesitate to reach out. I consider all of you guys students of my own. I consider Kay and Richard colleagues of mine. And I appreciate every moment that I get to spend with you guys, even though we're in the middle of COVID and it's not fun and lame. At least we're making the best of it. And always look on the bright side of things. And oh, Kamalpreet. Boom. She said if she becomes a pilot, she's going to do a webinar with us. I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that for sure. So Thank you guys. And if you don't have any questions, I'll let you go.